Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Citrix webinar, A New Normal for Learning. I'm David Solis, and I will be your moderator for today. Before we get started, I'll remind you about a few items about our presentation. This session is being recorded, so if you step away or miss any portion of the presentation, you will be able to view it on demand. Also, this session is interactive, so submit your questions at any time, and we'll get to those at the end. With that, I do want to introduce our speaker for today. We have Todd Smith, Education Evangelist at Citrix. Todd, I'll hand it to you to get started.
Great. Thank you, David. Appreciate you taking the time and appreciate the audience taking the time to listen to what we're having to share regarding Citrix and education. As David mentioned, I'm an education evangelist with Citrix. Been with Citrix for 15 years in a variety of different roles, but my passion is around education. And I want to share a couple of things with you about what Citrix is doing in the education space. Citrix has been delivering education solutions to higher ed as well as K through 12 for the past, let's say, 20 years. Part of this is delivering the mechanisms to allow students, faculty, and staff to securely and reliably connect back to university or institutional resources. Citrix in the top 10, we're in the top 10 leading education organizations, including the 10 highest ranked universities in the world, all of the US Big 10, or really Big 16 universities, and the top 10 largest US public school districts. Indiana University is one of our premier customers, and they recently won the Citrix Innovation Award for the way they leverage Citrix products to enable students to connect to university resources, regardless of where they were, and regardless of what devices they came in on or they were using. Indiana University was a 2019 Citrix Innovation Award winner for the way they implemented Citrix to deliver resources to students, regardless of where they were, whether they were on campus or off campus, as well as fulfilling students' requirements, especially students with special needs or special students that had special circumstances, loss of sight, loss of hearing, mobility issues. Citrix allowed the Indiana University to resolve those issues and help deliver that same experience to any of their students. Recently, the University of Sydney in Australia was hit with several instances of disruption. The first disruption was the Australia wildfires of early 2019 that forced a lot of students to not be able to show up on campus. Then they had some severe flooding problems within the city of Sydney itself that prevented students who were on campus from getting to their classes. Then the COVID-19 pandemic hit, and they had a significant number of students that had to change the way they were learning. Some of them could not go back to their home country. Some of them had to stay within the University of Sydney campus, but they had to change to an online learning model. We've identified 6 different education IT use cases. I'm not going to go into the detail on this, but I will give you some highlights. The first is creating a collaborative learning space where students, faculty, and staff can collaborate in a safe space that's online and always available. This includes the ability to have virtual whiteboards, virtual communication channels, sharing of information, shared repositories of data, things like that. The second use case is around building virtualized labs or virtual lab access. Oftentimes, most curriculums require some type of lab activities to be able to allow the student to optimize their learning experience. Oftentimes, those labs are physically located within buildings on campus. We need to find ways to provide that access to those resources regardless of where they are. The third big use case is around enabling computer-based assessments. Everything's being tested right now. Everyone has some type of certification test. There's a class that requires quizzes and exams online. How do we make sure that those are safe for the student to take, that regardless of where they are, but it's also secure, and it can actually maintain the university or the organizations or institutions honor codes around making sure that someone isn't able to go in and take advantage of the remote learning and take a test and open up a browser at the same time. When you're in the test, you can only use the testing window itself. Securing sensitive research information and research data. Oftentimes, colleges and universities have research arms that are oftentimes require them to have stewardship requirements for data. Speaking of compliance, we simplify regulatory compliance, providing access controls to applications and the data associated with that, being able to comply with things like student health information, which would require you to comply with HIPAA, student financial information, which requires you to comply with FERPA. Most colleges and universities and even high schools are accepting credit card information, which opens up the PCI DSS compliance programs. And finally, the use case around fostering secure collaboration. We've all heard the stories of people Zoom bombing into online meetings. How do you protect against that? How do you make sure that the communications with the students within the student population stays within that student population? How do we make sure that the students are safe as well as the faculty and staff are safe as well? So we're going to talk about the virtualization value in the opportunities in education. And as we click through and see what's happening, we want to look at it in two different views, two different parts of the same plane. One of them is reducing cost, and the other one is growing the experience. So the first cost that everyone considers is expense reduction, whether that's reducing the costs of things like hardware refresh, reducing IT operations costs. We can help with that as well. The next thing we want to be able to reduce is the risk. And this could be reducing the surface attack vectors, reducing the risk of breaches or ransomware attacks, safely delivering access to these unmanaged devices. Because let's be very frank here. Most education relies on students bringing their own device to campus, onto the network. We need to find ways to safely deliver that access. And then the other big thing is around improving DR, reducing or avoiding downtime. Downtime in education means you have to repeat the class, or you may need to redo a test and things like that they cause problems. When we want to grow, we want to improve that student attainment or student success, improve their college and career readiness, stabilize learning continuity, which has been a big issue earlier this calendar year. But think of it in the second half of last year's academic year, there was a lot of disruption, a lot of destabilization of the learning paths that most students were dealing with. We want to make sure that that doesn't get disrupted again. Consolidating that student technology experience. We'll get into how students change devices several times over the course of their career. We need to be able to deliver them the same access to the content and same access to the services regardless of what device they're on. And finally, being able to provide them with a safe and robust environment to do their coding or do their learning or experiments. The last area is around strategic growth. Growing the reputation of the university, college, and institution, being able to providing an agile platform that's able to accommodate that evolving curriculum. Curriculums are changing on a regular basis, almost semester to semester or even term to term. Being able to provide that better or enhanced employee experience, in this case, providing better tools for teachers, providing better tools for the students and the staff. So it all starts with what we refer to as the Citrix workspace. Now, a workspace can be defined as a single location for all your tools, supplies, and resources to perform work. In my father's and grandfather's days, it was typically a desk with a chair. There wasn't a lot of additional technology other than maybe some papers and pens. Then it turned into computer environments. Now all of a sudden we've got people doing more and more computer-based learning or computer-enhanced learning or technology-enhanced learning. What happens is as you take more classes and as you go on throughout your career, you get more and more of a cluttered desktop. We have a very similar approach towards the workspace. The workspace is considered as a desk environment. You have a variety of different applications. You have a variety of different services that are being delivered to you from this one single desktop or one single pane of glass. It's called the Citrix workspace. It can be the same across any number of devices, whether it be a smartphone, whether it be a tablet, or whether it be a traditional PC or Mac. The key is the experience that the user has is consistent across any of the devices or any of the locations that they're in. I want to stop for a second and show a quick demo, and we're going to actually do a demo from 3 different perspectives, all using the same infrastructure and the same basic background. So I'm going to line up my demo here. And we'll notice that I've created 3 different demos. Now this is all supported through a single sign-on, securely delivered application infrastructure called the Citrix Workspace. So we're going to first take a look at Jessica. Jessica Jones is a 5th grader at Middle Park Elementary School. She's a typical 5th grader. She's got a social interaction. She's got a lot of friends that she works with. She's in a lot of highly achieving classes, including she's beginning in the STEM program. She's preparing herself for the STEM program when she gets to middle school and high school. And as part of that, she's involved in a bunch of extracurricular activities, including Girls Who Code. And we'll get that to in a second. But being a 5th grader, sometimes Jessica needs help understanding what she needs to do and what's important for the day. So just like when she logs into Facebook or any of the other social media applications that are out there, or social media platforms that are out there, it gives her a feed of what's new, what needs to be done. Hey, Jenny just signed up for softball. Let's go do that as well. So we have this concept around an activity feed. And this activity feed could be, hey, she's been assigned a new quiz. She has to go in and do a quiz on 2-digit multiplication. There's also an opportunity for her to join or buy a 2019-2020 yearbook. Great. So she can go ahead and say, I'm interested in that, or no thanks. She can also check in what her reading assignments are. There's a group project that she has to do. There's a library book that's new. As she clicks through these tasks, they go incomplete, right? She can also say, I need to go and check on what my lunch balance is. And by clicking on the lunch balance or requesting lab time, so I'm going to go ahead and request lab time. And she can go and say, hey, you know what? I know I'm going to need this for my Girls Who Code project. She can actually go in and request what lab resources it. Or she needs to schedule a pickup with mom or dad. By clicking this, she could go and send out a secure text message to her parents, and the school will be notified that she's scheduling a pickup. So now all of a sudden she's safe and secure, and the school knows she's being picked up, and her parents know that she needs to be picked up. But we talked about the Girls Who Code initiative, and she needs to go in and do a project as part of this, but she needs a desktop. And she doesn't need just any desktop. She needs a high-end, graphic-intense desktop that has a lot of resources that are available. So as she slides down, she can see the recent desktops. And she knows that she needs to do a drawing. So she's going to open up the CAD lab. And with this, it's going to give her the ability to launch AutoCAD inside a virtualized desktop environment. This is running on a virtual machine back in the data center. It's not running on the Chromebook that she uses on a day-to-day basis. This is extremely critical because she's not consuming resources, and she doesn't have to install AutoCAD onto a Chromebook, which is nearly impossible, or she doesn't have to carry around a lunky laptop or go to a specific computer lab to be able to do this. She can access this from the school, from Starbucks when she gets her caramel macchiato, or when she goes in and is at home. She can connect to this exact same set of resources. So that was the experience that Jessica had. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the experience that her father, Matt, may have. Matt, being an involved father, wants to understand what's going on with Jessica and her school. So we're going to open up the experience that Matthew may have. All right, so now we've opened up Matt's experience. And if I go up and hover over Jessica's picture, I can see that it's now Matt, and he's checking in on his daughter. His daughter is part of the 5th grade. She's on Team Falcon, and he's a parent. And he can go and check things like, hey, Miss Kelleher, Jessica's teacher, has shared a folder for parent information to go to, which is really kind of cool when you start thinking about he now has a way to check things without having to go through email. He can go through the same portal that Jessica uses. He can use the same device, or he can check it from his work device, or he can check it from his phone while he's traveling. He can also check on what her current grade point average is. Now, the critical thing here is it's not going and launching a typical spreadsheet, or he's not getting an email. He's going directly into Moodle to get access to this. This gives him a portal to go in and check on all these applications. He doesn't need to have his own account on Moodle. He doesn't even know what his account is on Moodle. Same thing with Blackboard, right? He can also see what's been assigned to Jessica, which may be extremely helpful. You can also do things like check her lunch balance or schedule a pickup as well. As we talked earlier with the Jessica situation, Jessica can request to pick up, or he can request to pick her up. Goes both ways on this case. So we're going to now take a look at the experience of the teacher. So now we've signed in as Miss Kelleher. Miss Kelleher is the teacher of Jessica and the rest of Team Falcon. One of the things that's important for her to do is Miss Kelleher needs to be able to look at the grade point report, and this kind of gives her the access and the visibility to the entire class. She has access to the class folder for Team Falcon, so she can share information once again with the parent. One of the key things here is that we've changed some of the recommended actions based on Miss Kelleher as a teacher. She can go in and submit a student attendance report. She can check students in and out of classrooms. She can also have that filed up and submit it to the principal's office, as well as she can understand who is called in sick for the day, all from this one interface. The key here is that it's one place to go for the student, for the parent, and for the teacher. One single portal, one single workspace that is all delivered via Citrix. So I hope you enjoyed the demo, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges facing education today. One of the biggest challenges out there is access to lab resources. Students need access to these labs to complete their education. Oftentimes, these labs are extremely valuable, costly, expensive, purpose-built resources in dedicated computer labs or facilities within campus or within the school. Oftentimes, you need to scale out these resources to be able to meet demand based on the students. And you need to be able to maintain a consistent, manageable cost model. So we'll get into how Citrix can help with this. And the first thing is we provide remote access. So remote access has been around for a while. It allows you to connect securely into your environment, your school's environment, which helps reduce risk and improve that overall user experience. We can secure the connectivity all the way from whatever device the student happens to be on, or the teacher or the parent happens to be on, all the way through the data center and out to the applications that may sit out on the web out there. It also gives us the ability to scan those endpoints. Scanning the endpoints is critical because it allows us to make sure that someone is not introducing malware. They've got the latest virus definitions from the antivirus protectors or products that are out there. It also allows us to understand what else is running on that device. One of the challenges that we had as part of this COVID-19 is a lot of organizations, a lot of institutions and schools were converting over to remote learning. We had a customer, it was a community college that basically came back and said, Citrix allowed us to right the ship as we switched to a distance learning model. We had one less thing to address because we had Citrix. This is from a director of campus computing. He was responsible for 4,600 students being switched over to distance learning in the matter of a 1 week period. Citrix allowed him to do that, and it also allowed him to focus his energy on other things, like how do I get laptops and devices to students who don't have anything at home. So when we look at kind of the architectural diagram or the diagram that explains kind of where it's all fits, if we look on the left-hand side, we've got a user that comes in from a different set of devices. Some of these are managed or unmanaged. Managed would be something that is issued by the school or by the university. An unmanaged device would be your typical BYO or bring your own device program. It's whatever the student happens to have in front of them or whatever they bought or got for a graduation gift or a Christmas present or whatever. The key here is that from those devices, they connect into the workspace. And on those devices is a Citrix Workspace app, which is available from any of the online stores, the app stores or the Google Marketplace, wherever you happen to get it. The Workspace app allows you to connect in to all these different services. All these services are on the right-hand side. This could include a variety of different mobile apps. Could be also include some big SaaS or web-based apps. One of the biggest ones is Office 365. It also allows us to connect to virtualized applications and desktops. We just showed in the demo how Jessica was able to connect into a CAD environment, an AutoCAD environment on a virtual desktop and be able to do her work regardless of what device she's on. It also supports things like content-based applications, Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive, as well as Box. The critical thing here is it's very flexible and it supports almost any of the applications that you're running in your day-to-day life. One of the benefits of Citrix virtual apps and desktops, and this is the next progression on beyond just the workspace, is it really delivers three key areas. Experience, right? So that high-def experience. How do I get a graphic intense application to show up on a Chromebook or on an iPad? We give that high-def experience on any device at any location. We also provide a high level of security that is contextual, containerized, and embedded. And the data is protected both at rest and in transit. So you don't have to worry about data leakage, or you don't have to worry about what happens when the student loses control of the device or leaves it. You can have a series of policies and procedures already in place to protect that device. It also gives you an incredible amount of choice on access methods, how to manage and support any device. We support multiple applications that are out there, as well as multiple cloud providers that are out there. So if you're using Amazon, AWS, or if you're using Google Cloud Platform, or if you're using Microsoft Azure, we support it. We also support all your on-prem environments as well. And this is all done through this hybrid and scalable architecture. It doesn't matter where the resources happen to be. They can be in your data center on-prem. They can be in the cloud. They can be a combination of those. We see a lot of customers using a hybrid approach. The key here is everything that's in the blue cloud at the top is managed by Citrix. We take that responsibility off of your hands, so we always make sure that those resources are at the latest and highest performing levels. You don't have to worry about updating codes and updating environments. We take care of that for you as part of this architecture. The second thing is around VDI. How do I provide that virtual desktop experience without having to go and invest in infrastructure? So we have a great product and capability called Remote PC. And what Remote PC allows us to do is grant access to these physical devices that are in your schools, which allows you to maintain and leverage the investments that you've already made. And it also reduces that overall cost of compute, because now those devices, those high-end workstations, are now available for students to connect to remotely. And it also supports things like Wake on LAN, which means that if the computer has turned off or gone into sleep mode, Wake on LAN is the technology, the underlying technology that allows that to turn on. And that can be all managed through Citrix. This allows you to add physical desktops into your environment or your resources, so you don't have to use virtual resources, which tend to be very high, very expensive, and have a cost model associated with it. You can actually repurpose and reuse those physical desktops that you've already made the investment in. So I want to finish up with a couple of things. One of them is a case study. Long Beach City College out in California, obviously Long Beach, California. They had a challenge when the governor of California issued a shelter-in-place mandate. They had about 26,000 students that had to continue their education. They were being supported over 2 different campuses. 30 different computer labs were sitting idle. The school came to Citrix and said, hey, we need to have a way to solve this. We need to be able to continue the student's education and maintain that success of the student, even though they're learning from home. So the key here is that we wanted to be able to deliver high performance workloads. In some cases, these were video editing. They were design projects, similar to what we showed with Jess in the CAD project, and seamlessly expand that footprint. They needed to be able to scale up and scale out very quickly. And there was 2 things that we introduced. We introduced Remote PC as a solution for this, as well as Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops to allow us to expand out into cloud-based resources, which allowed us to burst and to expand and contract based on usage needs. We also added in capabilities around analytics. And analytics was critical for 2 reasons. One of them is security analytics, which allowed us to see what devices were being connected, if there were large amounts of data that were being transferred back and forth to show potential data leakage or potential an attack surface. And then finally, the second piece of the analytics puzzle was around performance analytics. What was the student's experience like? What was happening on not only the student experience or the user experience, but also what was happening on the back end? Were servers being overworked? Were applications being overutilized or underutilized? So that allowed Long Beach to actually have a better experience overall and maintain a security posture. So we're going to go through a couple of questions that have come in. So David, if you can help me out with some of the questions.
Let's look at this first one. What SIS and LMS does this workspace integrate with?
So our workspace has been designed to work through the APIs. So if your SIS or your LMS, your student information system or learning management systems, have a published set of APIs, which allows them to work and interact with other systems, if those are available, we can pretty much get the workspace to interact smoothly with them.
All right, let's take this next question. What is the student experience if working over a hotspot or MiFi internet connection?
That's a great question. And Citrix has had a history of developing and delivering applications and desktops over traditionally high latency or low bandwidth connections. This can be done through not only our proprietary protocols, but also we understand we're constantly monitoring that network connection to improve the performance as much as possible. That's especially critical in days where so many students are requiring or relying on video connections to augment their online presence. So whether you're on a MiFi, you're connecting to a hotspot that is overused, or if you're connecting in from home on a cable modem and you're having to share that bandwidth with other people in your house, Citrix allows you to optimize that connection to get the student, the user, the best experience possible.
Can this tool only be used for engineering applications or all Windows apps?
So it's designed to work with all Windows apps. There are some web-based applications as well that can be used, that can be supported through Citrix, both our virtual apps and desktops, as well as our workspace.
What happens if the student loses a school-issued device?
Great question as well. This happens a lot in education, especially in the K-12 space, where students tend to forget where they left it on the bus. But we have an endpoint management solution that's baked into our product that allows us to manage those endpoint devices, including being able to disable access, as well as being able to maybe wipe the machine completely clean. This happens an awful lot with cell phones and tablets, more than laptops and Chromebooks and things like that. But we do provide a robust set of policies that can identify and prohibit access for lost devices. We're doing a lot of work in the space of protecting the devices themselves, whether it be device management or just protecting the content that's being delivered to those devices.
All right, let's take one more question. And this one is, how long does it take to set up?
So I can give you a great consulting answer and say depends, but we have had customers with zero infrastructure or zero Citrix footprint have this solution up and running within 2 to 4 days. Depending on what applications you're trying to run, depending on what access you have to different resources. Personally, I've set these solutions up within a half a day. But it all depends on what you have for resources and what you have for available tools.
All right, well, that's just about the time we have for today. I want to thank you, Todd, for taking us through that great presentation, the demo, and the case studies. I want to remind everyone you can visit the additional resources showing on your screen to get some more information. Thank you, everyone, for attending. We look forward to another Citrix webinar with all of you soon. Have a great day.